maths, our science, our medicine, and our thinking about politics, in all these intellectual endeavours we are taken back to ancient Greece. In its great days, Greece was not one state. It was made up of a series of little states, city-states as they are now called. There was a single town with a tract of land around it. Everyone could walk into the town in a day. The Greeks wanted to belong to a state as we belong to a club. It was a fellowship. It was in these small city-states that the first democracies emerged. They were not representative democracies. You did not elect a member of parliament. All male citizens gathered in one place to talk about public affairs, to vote on the laws, and to vote on policy. As these Greek city-states grew in population, they sent people to start colonies in other parts of the Mediterranean. There were Greek settlements in what is now Turkey, along the coast of North Africa, even as far west as Spain, southern France, and southern Italy. And it was there, in Italy, that the Romans, who were then a very backward people, a small city-state around Rome, first met the Greeks and began to learn from them. In time, the Romans built a huge empire that encompassed Greece and all the Greek colonies. In the north, the boundaries were two great rivers, the Rhine and the Danube, though sometimes these were exceeded. In the west was the Atlantic Ocean. England was part of the Roman Empire, but not Scotland or Ireland. To the south were the deserts of North Africa. In the east, the boundary was most uncertain because here were rival empires. The empire encircled the Mediterranean Sea. It included only part of what is now Europe and much that is not Europe, Turkey, the Middle East, North Africa. The Romans were better than the Greeks at fighting. They were better than the Greeks at law, which they used to run their empire. They were better than the Greeks at engineering, which was useful both for fighting and running an empire. But in everything else, they acknowledged that the Greeks were superior and slavishly copied them. A member of the Roman elite could speak both Greek and Latin, the language of the Romans. He sent his son to Athens to university, or he hired a Greek slave to teach his children at home. So when we talk about the Roman Empire being Greco-Roman, it is because the Romans wanted it that way. Geometry is the quickest way to demonstrate how clever the Greeks were. The geometry taught in school is Greek. Many will have forgotten it, so let's start with the basics. That is how geometry works. It starts with a few basic definitions and builds on them. The starting point is a point, which the Greeks defined as having location but no magnitude. Of course, it does possess magnitude. There is the width of the dot on the page, but geometry is a sort of make-believe world, a pure world. Second, a line has length but no breadth. Next, a straight line is defined as the shortest line joining two points. From these three definitions, you can create a definition of a circle. In the first place, it is a line making a closed figure. But how do you formulate roundness? If you think about it, roundness is very hard to define. You define it by saying there is a point within this figure, one point from which straight lines drawn to the figure will always be of equal length. Along with circles, there are parallel lines that extend forever without meeting, and triangles in all their variety, and squares and rectangles and other regular forms. These objects formed by lines are all defined, their characteristics revealed, and the possibilities arising from their intersection and overlapping explored. Everything is proved from what has been established before. For example, by using a quality of parallel lines, you can show that the angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Geometry is a simple, elegant, logical system, very satisfying and beautiful. Beautiful? The Greeks found it beautiful, and that they did so is a clue to the Greek mind. The Greeks did geometry not just as an exercise, which is why we did it at school, nor for its practical uses in surveying or navigation. They saw geometry as a guide to the fundamental nature of the universe. When we look around us, we are struck with the variety of what we see, different shapes, different colors. A whole range of things is happening simultaneously, randomly, chaotically. The Greeks believed there was some simple explanation for all this, that underneath all this variety there must be something simple, regular, logical, which explains it all, something like geometry. Geometry in action. Parallel lines do not meet. We can define this characteristic by saying that a line drawn across them will create alternate angles that are equal. If they were not equal, the lines would come together or they would diverge. They would not be parallel. We use letters from the Greek alphabet to identify an angle, and on the diagram on the left, alpha marks two angles that are equal. The use of letters from the Greek alphabet for the signing